Look at me and tell me what you see. I look at you and tell you what I feel. Look at me and tell me what you see. I look at you and tell you what I feel.
曾自我硬漢子，拼出一生痴，流汗血盡赤心。
Welcome back to something different to the usual fare on this channel. Today, we'll be looking at the first film in the Police Story series, a series of 6 Hong Kong-based installments, 2 of which are completely unrelated reboots, which is pretty weird, but all in good time. Let's start and take a look at Police Story. Now, you might wonder, why does this film have such a generic name as Police Story? It's actually part of a genius move by Jackie Chan, because he discovered that every time he announced a film, everyone else followed. For example, when Legend of the Drunken Master was announced, every other filmmaker made their own drunken boxing movies. However, for Police Story, all people knew about it was that it was a police film. So the title is a really clever game of subterfuge to deter copycats and keep the movie unique, because a martial arts cop film was something completely unheard of at the time, so no one, audiences and rival filmmakers alike, knew what to expect. Police Story begins in a shanty town, and a crime boss by the name of Chu Tu arrives to conduct a deal. The police are giving their briefing on all the criminals who have arrived, as the operation to apprehend them all is happening today. All the officers get their orders as the chief in charge tells everyone to get ready, and we see all the men are placed around the town, with the roads blocked off. As the deal goes down, one of Chu Tu's men sees a cop spying on the meeting, which has to be the quickest and dumbest way for a police sting to get rumbled. Kinda makes me wonder how much thought went into this operation. However, Jackie Chan shows up, conveniently named Chan, and he notices that the villains are suspicious, telling the other cop he's an idiot. Chu Tu's right-hand woman tries to tell him the police are there, as Chan fruitlessly attempts to stop her. Unfortunately, she gets the word out as the bad guys scramble, and it's time for chaos to ensue. But not before Chan restrains the woman, and then bizarrely, after she tries to spit in his face, he acts like he's gonna spit in her face. Did he go to the playground school of policing? Seriously, what the hell was that exactly? And when one of the bad guys starts shooting at cops, everyone clears out. The shooting begins with both sides taking casualties, and Chan's finally managed to handcuff the woman, albeit extremely uncomfortably. And then there's this guy. Seriously, where did they get these guys for this operation? Chan meets up with the guy and can see he's walking PTSD. Chan has to help someone else when they get shot, and Mr. Nervous decides to fire wildly, requiring Chan to snap him out of it. Don't give him more bullets, what the hell, man? He's managed to hit everything but the criminals. He really can't handle the situation. But all joking aside, however, the shootout going on feels very realistic. No one is Rambo here. Everyone, including Chan, is sweaty as all hell and clearly fearing for their lives. Not exactly the kind of thing you get in your average action film. And when Mr. Nervous is forced to shoot one of the bad guys, he breaks down completely, pissing himself. Again, I have to point out how woefully unprepared he is for this operation. But I am surprised that in a martial arts action film, with all its big bombastic stunts and craziness, still manages to show a human reaction, which emphasises that no one is a superhero here, even if Chan does seem it at times. The villains try to drive away, but as the roads are blocked, they decide to go down the hill. Chan commandeers a car to drive after them, and being an officer of the law, he'll be very careful not to do anything too damaging to people's homes. He's having a little bit of an off day, I think. At the bottom of the hill, Chan takes chase as the bad guys get past the roadblock on foot and take over a double-decker bus. In what can be described as insanely suicidal, or just insane, he takes a woman's umbrella and runs after the bus, using the umbrella as a makeshift grappling hook, getting dragged behind it. But before all the skin on his arse can be sanded off, he attaches it to an upper window, while the bad guys have the driver at knife point. Even though he's using the blunt end of the knife, but whatever. The bus drives into oncoming traffic, forcing Chan to perform some death-defying feats of running along the tops of cars. The villains notice he's hung on and are eventually successful knocking Chan off, but he's not giving up as he slides down the hill, stopping a car and waits for the bus. The leader tells the driver to just run him down. Which is when Chan gets full-on badass. He reloads his gun calmly and coolly and goes to shoot the guy with the knife, but instead shoots into the air, causing the guy to duck, leading to... Now that looked painful, and probably was, because the bad guys falling out of the windows and onto the ground wasn't supposed to happen. They were supposed to fall out and onto the car, breaking their fall, but the bus stopped quicker than they expected, resulting in the stunt you just saw. Which does look a lot better, but I do feel sorry for the stuntmen. Chan gets on the bus holding Chu-2 at gunpoint and he immediately tries to bribe him. Chan looks like he'd take the money, but he's not corrupt, stopping Chu-2 from leaving and arresting him, which is pretty satisfying to watch the criminal leader get caught. We then shift to the station with Chan getting high praises from his chief, but in the superintendent's office he demands answers for the massive balls-up of an operation. The other officer blames Chan for not restraining the woman effectively. However, the operation is practically forgotten when they hear about the press interest, and the superintendent wants Chan to become a spokesperson for the police force. It's now time for a comedy montage of Chan in various situations and poses for posters and TV ads, promoting the police force, with the funniest part being when the photographer tries to give Chan direction. That brings me to something I wanted to bring up, because for me at least, comedy and cop drama don't gel well together. Either the drama is too serious, or the comedy is too silly, so the film becomes inconsistent. But for Police Story, the comedy and action complement each other quite nicely. Chan plays the action seriously, but is also quite clown-like in the stunts, so the consistency is kept that way, and there's no tonal whiplash. After the comedy montage, it's back to work as the chief and superintendent are playing the worst game of darts I've ever seen, and are talking about using Chu-2's right-hand woman, Selena, as a key witness against him in court. The chief is doubtful she'll cooperate, especially as she'll be in severe danger of assassination. So they bring Selena and her lawyer in to tell her that she'll be a witness and Chan will be protecting her. Selena doesn't like that at all, but there's nothing she can do. They ask to speak with Selena alone, and once everyone leaves, they just sit there doing nothing, which was just to mess with her lawyer's head a bit, to think she said something she hasn't. It's a clever way to trick Chu-2 into thinking that Selena gave them information, forcing him to make a move when Chan is protecting her so he would entrap himself. Which again is something you wouldn't really get in your usual action movie. They don't really go into the legal process, and realistically as well. We then move to Selena casually shopping with Chan tailing her. She's belligerent and hostile towards him, telling Chan that she doesn't need him and he can't scare her into complying. You know, there's confident and then there's blissfully ignorant. I think she's underestimating the levels her scumbag mobster boss will stoop to. And what do you know, Chu-2 is speaking with his lawyer, who says Selena is going to testify against him, so Chu-2 tells the lawyer to get someone to take care of her, with take care of her in massive inverted commas. At Selena's apartment, Chan insists that she shouldn't stay home alone, but she's still completely cavalier about this whole situation, locking him out with a sore foot and sore head at the same time. Selena may actually need him shortly, as there's a knife-wielding assassin waiting outside, with quite the nightmare fuel mask. But when she goes to the window... Never mind, it was a comedy false alarm. She didn't seem to mind him seeing her in her underwear, though. However, in the closet, the assassin is in wait. She first thinks it's Chan again, but then the guy attacks. Selena knocks the guy off the bed, causing his mask to fall, and we see it's one of Chan's fellow officers trying to trick Selena. Even though this is all just a ruse and fake, it doesn't stop the guy from being as psycho as he can possibly be to scare the shit out of Selena. Which granted is the point, but still. Eventually, Chan intervenes and pretends to fight the guy, but it's now that Selina becomes proactive, saying she'll call the police. Chan doesn't want this, so he moves the fight over to the phone and quickly disconnects it. However, further problems arise when Selina smashes a vase over the guy's head, forcing Chan to keep up the fight. But after another vase to the head, he's completely out cold, and Chan has to stop Selina from beating the guy to death. That kind of went on a bit too long as it went from disturbing to comical. Although it was the film's blending of its action and comedy in that Jackie Chan style, Selina is still a moron for believing the act, because it gets really obvious by the end. And Chan needs to keep up the ruse by pretending to phone the station.
我係家駒啊！我而家先知呢鑊嘢咁惡啃嘅，你揾人嚟替我啦。冇，我唔理咁多啊！受咗幾千蚊人工，唔通揾條命仔去搏啊？
That was a well-timed bit of comedy though, I gotta admit. Chan pretends to no longer care about Selina, which finally causes her to relent and accept his protection, so Chan is pretty damn pleased with himself. But it turns out the con might not have been necessary, as when they drive out of the place, Chan runs over someone's pram, which you'd think I'd criticise him for, but it seems like it was a deliberate attempt to stop the car, as when Chan goes to check the baby, the villains attack, nearly running over Chan, before leading into another really great martial arts extravaganza. Selina eventually gets Chan's gun from his coat, and after firing a single shot, while falling over, it causes the bad guys to quickly run off. It doesn't make the bad guys look that competent when the fake attack was far more effective than the real one. Chan drives Selina's beat-to-all-hell car, and while they travel, he manages to get Selina to tell him everything that Chu-Tu is involved in, so at least he's got some evidence. Chan's taken Selina to his apartment, however...
我開燈先啊！
How long were they waiting in the dark for him to come home? A few hours at least? My god, that's a commitment. Chan's girlfriend, May, set up the surprise, but when she sees Selina there, she instantly thinks he's a cheater and gives him a cake facial. But at least she blows out the candles first. All the guests quickly leave and Chan showers, and while he's in there, May returns, telling Selina to be quiet. And of course, with May outside the room, Chan can't help saying really stupid things, like how his police fame will get him plenty of ladies, but Selina does try to get him to say nice things about May. The comedy and relationship stuff we see gives the film some breathing room between all the action, and it also makes Chan more human and relatable, which again makes this action film different to your usual muscle-bound, superhuman shoot-'em-up action movie. Granted, they have their place, but a human connection is good as well. May calls the apartment with Chan's phone and he pretends she's crying and apologetic to Selina, but he realises his mistake when he turns around getting yet more cake to the face, with her leaving and Chan chasing after her. He does kind of deserve all the cake to the face really, because he's being quite the arse. But I think because Chan is likeable and a bit of a bumbler, it's clear he's not being malicious. Chan tries to stop May from leaving. Wow, to a rather extreme degree. He even stops the moped from driving away and then lets it go so she goes flying down the street. Back in the apartment, Selina's on her own looking around, which is when she sees one of Chan's police photos, and wouldn't you know it, her would-be assassin is there as well, so she knows she's been duped. But come to think of it, yes, Chan fooled her, but if he hadn't, she would have been attacked by a lot more bad guys. So I think whatever kind of pissed she's gonna be is pretty irrelevant, cause Chan was still very right to fool her, and she was still very dumb for not accepting his protection first. Chan gets back and is surprised to find Selina acting all sexy with him, with every kind of ridiculous innuendo you can think of.
就斷啦，就斷啦，唔好坐咁大力㗎，就斷㗎啦，就斷㗎啦。
你整濕晒人哋咯。
With Chan being rightfully confused as all hell throughout, but it ends with a big anti-climax.
我而家要瞓覺啦，唔好騷擾我啊！
啲女人怪起上嚟，一個犀利過一個。
And in the morning, Selina's taped up all of Chan's alarm clocks, so he's late for court and she's gone. Man, don't piss off a woman, because they'll get very creative to punish you for it, on top of the blue balls. That's cold. We then shift to the court case against Chu-Tu already in progress, with the lawyers of both parties questioning the officers who took part in the operation. And interestingly, you'll notice that the lawyers are more traditionally dressed, which is because they're using the British legal system's way of doing things, due to Hong Kong being under British control. Chan arrives in time but has to tell his chief that Selena's gone and the case isn't going so well, as the defendant has the upper hand. Chan takes the stand, giving his version of events, of following the bus and apprehending Chu-Tu, which is when the defendant's lawyer uses the bus as the main basis for his attack, stating that at the time of the arrest, many buses were running that route, and when Chan slid down the hill to catch the bus, he lost sight of it. As such, the man he arrested was an innocent bystander and not the drug lord that they thought he was. Which has to be one hell of a technicality. I don't know much about law and courtrooms and stuff, but the fact that a policeman lost sight of a criminal seems like a very desperate play and wouldn't really work, on top of all the other evidence the prosecution would have against the guy. However, Chan remembers he has the tape of Selena's interview that has everything about Chu-Tu recorded, so they decide to play it for the court, bringing in the massive speakers so everyone at the back can hear. However, there's a problem, as when the tape is played, it's Selena being all sexy and completely out of context as well.
哎呀，你做咩啊？哎呦，吉到我好痛啊！咩嚟㗎？咁肉酸，抌咗佢啦！你整濕晒人哋啦！
So after all that, Chu-Tu walks free, which I still think is far too easy and simple of a result there, even if Chu-Tu is still being investigated. However, despite being constantly watched, Chu-Tu is still making plans. Firstly, his subordinate tells him they need to get rid of Selena, but then one of the officers who was at the film's opening operation is working for Chu-Tu and is tasked with killing Chan. Because the arresting officer in a case you just won by the skin of your teeth against him suddenly dying in suspicious circumstances won't possibly be a problem and come back to bite you in the ass. Why is it that mob bosses never seem to think, hey, I should lay low for a while and not do anything suspicious? Back at the police station, Chan is left to man the phones while cooking some noodles, and as the other officer leaves, every phone in the room starts ringing. Firstly, it's May on the phone, as Chan has to pretend to be handed the phone because he was rude to her again. And while he's talking with May, another phone rings and thus begins telephone gymnastics, which is pretty funny to watch.
電話仲講緊啊，30個警署。咩話？你俾人強姦？你等陣啦，揾支筆幫你記低佢。
Yeah, until that. Chan speaks to a guy who's missing a cow. That's funny. But then, speaking to two women, one of whom was beaten by her husband, the other who was raped, I don't think the funny antics can be justified after that, especially with the goofy music playing. But let's see how he deals with the situation. Actually, there's no point in avoiding it. Chan handles the situation really badly. First, by accidentally hanging up on the woman who was being beaten by her husband, and then giving really bad advice to the woman who was raped.
喂，你邊度啊？去家計會食啊！話俾佢聽，食豉油避孕丸，擔下食，免費㗎，係咁啦。
Yeah, that's pretty damn awful actually. And they're saying it's supposed to be played for laughs, but the whole thing really did make me feel uncomfortable, despite how disarming Chan is throughout. And to finish off the attempted goofiness, Chan eats his noodles, resorting to using pencils instead of chopsticks, which is kind of gross in itself, but then he eats the rubbers on the end, just to make the whole thing pretty disgusting. After that debacle, Chan meets with May to have dinner with her parents, and he shows up in his car with a broken handbrake that he has to constantly hold back to stop it causing havoc. Inconveniently, Chan gets a page and needs to use the payphone, leaving May to hold the car back. And of course, the sheer will of the car to create chaos causes May to let go of it. And while death approaches, Chan talks with his contact, who tells him where Chu-Tu is hiding Selena, but it's actually a trap, as Chu-Tu's men are there telling him what to say. And then there's the car issue.
你做咩啊？
架車啊！
Not sure that deserves slow motion. I am wondering when Chan will be promoted from renowned police officer to straight-up public menace, because he's no stranger to vast amounts of property damage, and it won't be the last time either. Chan finds Selena, managing to acrobatically get past the gate and onto the building, as he sees Selena tied up like a damsel in distress from a black and white film. Chan climbs onto the balcony and manages to subdue the single villain guarding Selena. He unties her, and that's when more bad guys show up for another fight. The villains eventually subdue Chan. The corrupt cop arrives, so it seems like he's helping Chan, but then holds him at gunpoint, which doesn't go well for him when he's shot with Chan's gun. Chan manages to use the dying guy's body to escape with Selena and onto the roof of the building. He gets Selena to jump to the nearby pool, which was fortunately deep enough not to kill her, but Chan isn't able to jump in time and is knocked out. And while he's unconscious, word has gotten back to the station that Chan's gun was used to kill an officer, so he's suspected of murder, with the superintendent fully convinced of his guilt. You can probably tell that the goofiness has been pretty much removed from the film at this point. It does become a much more grittier film with very little comedy. But because the film's been getting slowly darker and the comedy has eased off, it's not particularly jarring. Elsewhere in a field, Chan wakes up and he quickly meets up with May, who tells him the news about the cop he supposedly killed. So he goes to the police station to turn himself in and clear his name. Or he could do that too, that's good as well. Chan tells the superintendent what he thinks of him, that he doesn't care about his men who risk their lives, which culminates in him taking the superintendent hostage as he makes his way out of the building. And it's some really good acting from Jackie Chan as well, very different to his previous persona of the happy bumbler, which emphasises how Chan has been pushed to the very limits at this point. Chan makes it to a car and drives away with the super, being let go by the chief. When they reach the countryside, Chan lets the superintendent leave. He tells the superintendent he wouldn't have shot, and his boss is actually on his side, giving him a head start before the police come after him. But Chan's on a revenge mission determined not to be caught. Which, on the subject of that mission, he first pays a visit to his informant who set him up. And we don't see what he does with the guy, but that face, yeah, you don't fuck with. We then move to the film's climactic location as Chan waits and watches outside of a mall for Chu-Tu to show up. And while he does, Selena sneaks in printing off her boss's data, which Chu-Tu is notified of back at his office, and goes to the mall to stop her. Chan sees Chu-Tu show up and goes into the mall after him. Inside, the villains find Selena and take chase. And now is the biggest climactic fight of the film, as Chan starts to fight the villains after Selena. He knocks a few around and one down the escalator, catching up with Selena. More villains attempt taking the data, and Chan tries fending them off, but is thrown over the stairs and into a wooden canopy. Which looked pretty damn brutal. However, because this is the climax, that won't be the last or the most brutal stunt performed before the end. It goes really crazy. Chan catches up with the villains again, who have Selena. Surprisingly little worse for wear considering his recent fall. Also, apparently for the film, the crew started calling the film Glass Story because of how much was used, and that stunt glass was made twice as thick to make it look more realistic, but it did result in a lot more injuries, which makes scenes like this, and this, and definitely this, a lot more painful to watch. After some more genuinely impressive as hell martial arts and brutal stunts from Jackie and the bad guys, there's also this for some more brutal glass breakage. The villain grabs the data and runs off, throwing it to the ground level. Chan knocks the guy out, and when he sees Chu-Tu beating up May, he takes the quickest way down. And they show the entire thing 3 times. And you know what? There's a very good reason why the film showed it multiple times, because this is without a doubt the most brutal and insane stunt Jackie Chan has ever performed. Firstly, the lights he fell through were meant to be plugged into a low voltage battery, but were in fact plugged into the main supply, giving Jackie Chan severe burns to his hands and back. But also, the hit at the end first nearly paralysed Jackie as he broke the 7th and 8th vertebrae in his spine, but he also dislocated his pelvis, something not known to even be possible at the time. So yeah, holy shit. After seeing this film and reading all about it, I have so much more, on top of the already considerable amount of respect I have for Jackie Chan. But after that insanity, Chan, unlike Jackie, manages to get up from his fall and catch up with Chu-Tu, holding him hostage with a piece of glass, demanding justice, saying he'll kill him. Fortunately, Selena turns up telling the cops she has the evidence they need to convict Chu-Tu, so Chan leaves Chu-Tu to be taken in. But Chu-Tu's scumbag lawyer also arrives to basically throw his weight around a little bit, threatening lawsuits and crap like that. So I think Chan deals with him appropriately. And then he punches the fuck out of Chu-Tu, kicking him into more glass, and as Chan is held back from beating him up some more, the film ends. That's exactly where the film ends. No follow-up, no extra court scenes. You've had your huge amount of action, now off you go. You've had enough. But hey, at least the film knows when nothing else needs to be said. The main draw of Police Story is the fantastic action and martial arts scenes, which honestly made this review difficult because I couldn't really just sit here and tell you what's happening punch by punch. A lot of the honestly fantastic action I had to trim down for the sake of brevity. But take my word for it, if you want a martial arts film that'll satisfy, this is a good one to choose. But other than that, the story is a pretty interesting one. It's not just a framing device for the action. It's very well acted, surprisingly realistic, and very compelling. You get to know the good guys and the bad guys very well, and of course, the comedy is very well done as well, thanks to Jackie Chan's acting and slapstick abilities. A fantastic first entry in the franchise, and I don't know how the series progresses in quality, but thanks to this movie, I'm excited to find out with Police Story 2. So until then, see you next time.
曾自我硬漢子，拼出一生痴，流汗血盡赤心，追尋大義。生命作賭注，留下了英雄故事。